The big meeting room on the space station was full of strange sounds. Different alien scientists from across the galaxy made their own types of laughter. Some clicked their teeth, others made whistling noises, and a few vibrated like musical instruments. They were all looking at the same thing on the big screen in front of them. Dr. Velthari stood at the front of the room. She was tall and thin, with 4 purple eyes that moved around like a lizard's eyes. She was a Krillian, one of the smartest alien races in the galaxy. Her long fingers pointed at the spinning planet on the screen. "Look at this world," she said in her high voice. "The humans want to build a home here. They call it Cairo 7. The planet looked terrible. It was completely white and covered in thick ice. Huge storms moved across its surface like angry monsters. The temperature readings on the screen showed numbers that made even the toughest aliens feel cold just looking at them. Minus 60 degrees, Dr. Velthari continued. Winds that blow at 200 kilometers per hour. Ice storms that can cut through metal. And the humans think they can live there? A big alien covered in orange. Fur raised his hand. Dr. Fluxistar needed a special mask to breathe, and his voice sounded like it came from underwater. "My people come from hot desert worlds. Even we cannot survive on that ice ball for more than a few days." "Exactly," said Dr. Velthari. She pressed a button, and more numbers appeared on the screen. "Our computers say there is a 97% chance that all humans will die within 1 year. Maybe less." The room filled with more alien laughter. The Zephyrians waved their tentacles in the air like they were dancing. The Quartzlings, who looked like walking crystals, made beautiful ringing sounds that meant they found something very funny. "Stupid humans," clicked Dr. Zexthera through her insect-like mouth. "They think they are so special. But they are just soft meat creatures from a warm little planet." "Their planet Earth is not even that dangerous," added another scientist. "It has nice weather, lots of water, and safe places to live. How can they survive on a world that kills everything?" Dr. Velthari nodded. "The humans sent us their request 3 months ago. They want to study the planet and build a research base. I think we should let them try. It will be a good lesson for them. And good entertainment for us," said Dr. Fluxstar. "We can watch them fail and then rescue the survivors, if there are any survivors." While the aliens laughed and made jokes, something very different was happening on the human ship. The ship was called Indomitable, and it was flying through space toward Cairo 7. Inside the ship, 5 humans sat around a table looking at the same planet data. Dr. Kim Tae-hyun was the team leader for studying rocks and land. He was a quiet man with dark hair and serious eyes. He had spent many years learning about planets and how they were made. Next to him sat Dr. Park So-min. She studied tiny living things that could survive in places where nothing else could live. She was small but very smart, and her eyes were always bright with curiosity. Dr. Lee Jae-sung knew everything about air and weather. He could look at clouds and wind patterns and tell you exactly what would happen next. Dr. Choi Ha-nul was an expert at building things that could keep people alive in dangerous places. She had short hair and strong hands that were always busy, building or fixing something. The 5th person was Dr. Yoon Do-hyun. He was the mission commander and the oldest of the group. He had gray hair and lines around his eyes from squinting in bright snow for many years. Before he became a space scientist, he had lived and worked in Antarctica on Earth. He knew all about ice and cold, and how to survive in places that tried to kill you. "The alien scientists think we will all die," Tae-hyun said, reading from his computer. "They calculated a 97% death rate." So-min smiled. It was not a happy smile, but the kind of smile people make when they know something others do not. "They do not know much about humans, do they?" "What do you mean?" asked Jae-sung. Do-hyun answered for her. "The aliens come from easy planets. Warm planets with no dangerous weather. They never had to fight to survive." Ha-nul nodded. "But humans are different. Our planet Earth tried to kill us many times. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Volcanoes that blocked out the sun. Huge storms and floods and earthquakes. And we survived all of it," added Tae-hyun. "Not just survived, we got stronger." So-min pulled up pictures on her computer. They showed human explorers in some of the coldest places on Earth. "Look at these. Humans living in Antarctica where it is minus 40 degrees. Humans climbing mountains where the air is too thin to breathe. Humans crossing frozen oceans on foot. The aliens see Kairos 7 and think it is impossible to survive there, Do-hyun said. But I see Kairos 7 and think it looks like home. Cold. I have lived in places on Earth that are just as cold. Windy. I have worked in Antarctic storms that were worse. Ice that cuts like knives. I have seen that too. The other humans nodded. They all had similar stories. They had all trained in the worst places on Earth. They had all learned how to live where other creatures would die in minutes. The aliens made a mistake, Hanyul said. They think that because something is hard, it is impossible. But humans do impossible things every day. Tae-hyun looked at the spinning planet on his screen. Where the aliens saw death, he saw opportunity. The ice might hide interesting rocks and metals. The storms might follow patterns that could be predicted and used. There is something else, Soman said quietly. The aliens say nothing can live on Kairos 7. But what if they are wrong? What if there is life there, but it is life they cannot? Understand? Life that only humans could find, added Jae-sung. Do-hyun smiled for the first time since the meeting started. 6 months from now, those laughing aliens are going to learn something about humans. They are going to learn that we do not give up, we do not quit, and we do not die easy. The human ship continued flying toward the ice planet while behind them, the aliens kept laughing and making bets about how quickly the humans would fail. None of them knew that they were about to witness something that would change how the entire galaxy thought about humanity forever. 6 months passed quickly. The alien scientists had almost forgotten about the humans flying toward the ice planet. They were busy with their own safe experiments in their warm laboratories. But Dr. Velthari remembered. She had set up special cameras and sensors around Kairos 7 to watch what would happen. Today is the day, she announced to her fellow scientists. The human ship should reach Kairos 7 in a few hours. The aliens gathered around the big screens again. This time they were not laughing as much. Some of them felt a little sorry for the humans. It seemed cruel to watch creatures die, even if they were too stupid to know better. Maybe we should warn them one more time, suggested Dr. Fluxtar. Tell them how dangerous it is. We already told them, Dr. Velthari replied. They said they understood the risks. Now we watch and see what happens. High above Kairos 7, the human landing ship separated from the main vessel. The landing ship was called Perseverance, and it looked nothing like the pretty, smooth ships that aliens usually built. It was thick and heavy, covered in extra armor and heating systems. It looked like it was built for war, not science. The ship entered the planet's atmosphere like a burning rock. The alien cameras showed how the terrible winds grabbed the ship and shook it like a toy. Ice and debris hit the hull so hard that the cameras could hear the banging sounds even from space. No ship can survive that, whispered Dr. Zexthera. Her insect eyes were wide with worry, but the human ship kept flying. It was not flying smoothly or prettily, but it was still flying. The pilot inside fought the controls like he was wrestling, a wild animal. The ship spun and dropped and climbed again, but it did not break apart. Impossible, said Dr. Velthari. Those winds should have torn them apart. The aliens watched as the ship finally crashed into the ice. It hit the ground hard and slid for almost a kilometer before stopping. Snow and ice flew everywhere. The ship disappeared into a white cloud of frozen debris. That is it, said Dr. Fluxter sadly. No one could survive that crash. But then something happened that made all the aliens stop breathing. A door opened on the side of the crashed ship. A figure in a thick white suit climbed out and stood on the ice. The figure did not fall down or stumble around. It stood straight and strong, like the terrible cold and wind were nothing. The figure was Do-hyun. He looked around at the frozen landscape and spoke into his radio. Surface conditions confirmed. Temperature is -62 degrees. Wind speed is steady at 180 kilometers per hour. Beginning site assessment. His voice was calm. He sounded like he was describing nice weather, not a place that could kill most living things in minutes. This cannot be real, Dr. Velthari said. Her 4 eyes were all focused on the screen, trying to understand what she was seeing, one by one. The other humans came out of the crashed ship. But they did not act like people who had just survived a terrible accident. They acted like people who had arrived at work and were ready to start their job. So Min came out carrying a bag of scientific tools. She immediately began taking samples of the ice and snow around the landing site. The alien camera zoomed in on her face inside her helmet. She was smiling. Jae-sung appeared with weather instruments. He stuck sensors into the ground and set up a small weather station. The wind was blowing so hard that the aliens expected the equipment to be destroyed immediately. Instead, Jae-sung had built everything to work perfectly in exactly these conditions. Han-il started unpacking large metal boxes from the ship. The boxes contained pieces of their base camp. She began connecting the pieces together, building their shelter right there on the ice while the storm raged around her. Tae-hyun was the last to come out. He carried special tools for studying rocks and ground. But instead of looking worried about the terrible conditions, he looked excited. He walked around the landing area like he was exploring a wonderful new place. "Look at them," Dr. Zexthera said in amazement. "They are not just surviving. They are working. They are building things." "How is this possible?" asked another alien scientist. "Our computer models said they would be dead in minutes." Dr. Velthari was beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. "Our computer models were based on our own biology. We assumed all intelligent life would react the same way we do." "You mean we were wrong?" Dr. Fluxtar asked. "Very wrong," Dr. Velthari admitted. On the ice planet, the humans continued their work like the deadly environment was just a minor inconvenience. Do-hyun established a communications link with their ship in orbit and began sending regular reports. "Base, camp location is ideal," he reported. "We have natural windbreaks from the ice formations. The ground is solid enough for permanent structures, beginning Phase 2 of setup." Phase 2 involved something that shocked the aliens even more. The humans did not just build a shelter to hide from the terrible conditions. They built a base that used the conditions to make life easier. Han-il showed them how. She connected wind turbines to their power system. The same winds that the aliens thought were destructive became a source of unlimited electricity. She set up collection systems that turned the flying ice and snow into fresh water for drinking and washing. Jae-sung used his weather knowledge to predict when the storms would be weakest. During these calm periods, the humans could work outside for longer periods. But even during the worst storms, they kept working inside their base, planning and preparing for their research. So Min made the most surprising discovery of all. She found that the ice was not empty and lifeless like the aliens had thought. Deep inside the ice crystals, she found tiny living things. They were so small that the alien sensors had missed them completely. "Command, this is base camp," she reported excitedly. "I am finding microbial life in the ice samples. These organisms are not just surviving in these conditions, they are thriving." Tae-hyun added his own good news. "The geological surveys are showing something interesting. There are warm spots under the ice, natural hot springs that could provide heat and energy." By the end of their first day on Kiros 7, the humans had not only survived but had begun turning the deadly planet into their new home. They had power, water, shelter, and even scientific discoveries. The alien scientists watched all of this in complete silence. Everything they thought they knew about survival and intelligence was wrong. The humans were not just tougher than expected. They were operating on a completely different level. "I think," Dr. Velthari said slowly, "we need to revise our understanding of what it means to be an advanced species." The other aliens nodded. They had spent the day expecting to watch humans die. Instead, they had watched humans do something none of them could have imagined. They had made the impossible look easy, and this was only the first day. The humans planned to stay for years. The aliens were beginning to realize they were about to learn a lot more about what humans could do when everyone said it was impossible. 3 months had passed since the humans landed on Kairos 7. The alien scientists checked their monitoring stations every day, waiting for the distress signal that would mean the humans finally needed to be rescued. The signal never came. Instead, something much more surprising was happening. The human settlement was not just surviving, it was growing bigger and stronger every day. Dr. Velthari stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The numbers made no sense according to everything she knew about science and survival. "This is impossible," she muttered to herself for the 100th time. The human base now had 12 buildings connected by covered walkways. They had built workshops, laboratories, living quarters, and even a dining hall. The settlement looked like a small town, not a desperate survival camp. But the most shocking thing was what the humans were discovering about the planet itself. Tae-hyun had found something that all the alien surveys had completely missed. "Base camp to orbital station," his voice came through the communication system. "We have confirmed 17 geothermal sites within our exploration area. The planet is not as frozen as it appears." He explained his discovery to Do-hyun and the rest of the team. "The ice formations are not solid all the way down. There are pockets of heat deep under the surface. Natural hot springs that have been hidden by the ice for thousands of years." "Can we use them?" Hanul asked. She was always thinking about how to make their base better and safer. "Already working on it," Tae-hyun replied with a smile. "I have designed a system to tap into the geothermal energy. We could have enough heat and power to expand the base 10 times larger." The alien scientists listening to these reports could not believe what they were hearing. They had sent robot probes to study Cairo 7 for years. How had they missed such an important discovery? Dr. Fluxtar asked the question they were all thinking. How did the humans find something that our best equipment could not detect? Dr. Velthari was beginning to understand the answer. Our probes were designed to avoid danger. They stayed away from the worst ice storms and the most unstable areas. But the humans went directly into those dangerous places. "And that is where the interesting discoveries were hiding," added Dr. Zexthera. Meanwhile, So-min was making discoveries that were even more amazing. The tiny living things in the ice were not simple bacteria like she first thought. They were complex organisms that had developed incredible abilities. "These microorganisms are processing the ice crystals," she reported during one of her weekly science briefings. "They are breaking down the crystal structure and creating metallic compounds. It is like they are mining the ice from the inside." Do-hyun listened carefully. "What kind of metals?" "Iron, copper, even some rare elements that we use for electronics," So-min replied. "The bacteria are essentially running a biological factory inside the ice formations." This news excited Han-Nul greatly. "If we can understand how they do it, we might be able to harvest those metals for building materials." The alien scientists were amazed. Not only had the humans found life where there should be no life, but they were also learning how to work with that life to make their colony better. Jae-sung contributed his own important discoveries about the planet's weather patterns. The alien meteorologists had dismissed the storms as chaotic and unpredictable, but Jae-sung saw something completely different. "The storm systems follow a clear pattern," he explained to his team while showing them weather charts. "Every 12 days there is a thermal inversion that creates a 6-hour period of calm weather. Every 36 days the wind patterns shift direction completely." "What does that mean for us?" Do-hyun asked. "It means we can predict the weather months in advance," Jae-sung said proudly. "We can plan our outside work for the calm periods. We can prepare for the big storms before they arrive. And during certain wind patterns we can collect much more water and power." The humans began using these weather predictions to make their colony even more efficient. They scheduled construction, work during calm periods. They prepared for big storms by securing their equipment and gathering extra supplies. They even learned to enjoy the storms, treating them as natural entertainment. Han-Nul made the most practical improvements to their daily life. She figured out how to use the natural ice formations as building materials, the same sharp ice that the aliens thought was dangerous. She turned into walls and barriers that protected the human base from the worst winds. "The ice here is incredibly strong when it is shaped correctly," she explained while showing off her latest construction project. "It is like having an unlimited supply of building materials that is perfectly adapted to the local environment." She also designed systems to collect and purify the flying ice and snow during storms. "Why fight the weather when you can use it?" she said. "The storms bring us fresh water, the wind gives us power, and the cold keeps our food fresh." By the end of 3 months, the human settlement had everything they needed to live comfortably. Reliable power, unlimited water, strong buildings, fresh food, and even recreational activities. They had built a gymnasium inside one of their larger buildings and had started growing plants in a heated greenhouse. The alien scientists who had been expecting to rescue dying humans instead found themselves watching a thriving community. The humans were not just surviving impossible conditions, they were turning those conditions into advantages. "I do not understand how this is possible," Dr. Fluxtar admitted during one of their observation meetings. Dr. Velthari had been studying human history and was beginning to find answers. "I have been reading about their home planet Earth. It is not a safe, easy world like ours. Earth is violent and dangerous. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, massive storms, earthquakes that destroy entire continents." "So?" asked Dr. Zexthara. "So, humans evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most galactic species. They did not just adapt to one environment, they learned to adapt to any environment. What we see as an impossible challenge, they see as just another problem to solve." The other aliens thought about this. It was true that their own home planets were much more stable and predictable than Earth. They had never needed to develop the kind of extreme survival skills that humans took for granted. "There is something else," Dr. Velthari continued. "The humans are not trying to change the planet to suit them. They are changing themselves to suit the planet. They are working with the environment instead of against it." This was a completely different approach than any alien species used. Most galactic civilizations tried to recreate the comfortable conditions of their homeworlds wherever they went. But humans seemed to enjoy adapting to new and difficult conditions. The monitoring stations continued sending reports of human success. The colony was growing larger every week. More humans were arriving from Earth to join the research mission. They were all excited to experience life on the ice planet. The alien scientists realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans had not just survived on an impossible world, they had turned that impossible world into a new home, and they were just getting started. Winter came to Kairos 7 with a fury that made the previous conditions seem mild. The temperature dropped to -90 degrees Celsius. The winds howled at speeds that bent metal and shattered rock. Even the humans had to limit their time outside to short emergency trips only. The alien scientists watching from their safe space stations thought this would finally be the end of the human colony. Surely no living thing could survive such extreme conditions. Dr. Velthari checked her instruments daily, expecting to see the human heat signatures disappearing one by one. Instead, the thermal readings from the human base remained strong and steady. The humans were not just alive inside their buildings, they were still working. "What are they doing down there?" Dr. Fluxtar asked, staring at the sensor readings that showed constant activity inside the human base. "I think they are still conducting experiments," Dr. Velthari replied in amazement. "Even in these conditions, they have not stopped their research." She was right. Inside the warm buildings of New Busan Base, the human team was busier than ever. The terrible winter weather had forced them to focus on underground exploration, and that focus was about to lead to the most important discovery in galactic history. Du Hyun stood in the main laboratory looking at underground maps that Tai Hyun had been creating using deep scanning equipment. The maps showed something incredible hidden beneath kilometers of ancient ice. "These are not natural formations," Taehyun said, pointing at strange geometric shapes on his computer screen. "Look at these patterns. These lines are too straight, too regular. This looks like construction." So Min leaned closer to examine the data. "How deep are these structures?" 5 kilometers down, maybe more," Taehyun replied. "The ice has been building up for millions of years. Whatever this is, it is incredibly old." Hanul studied the technical readings. "The thermal patterns are unusual too. These structures are generating heat. After millions of years, they are still warm." Jae-sung added his own observations about the atmospheric data. "I have been detecting strange gas emissions coming from deep underground. The chemical composition does not match anything in our databases." Do-hyun felt excitement building inside him. As the mission commander, he had seen many strange things during his years of exploration. But this felt different. This felt like they were about to discover something that would change everything. "We need to drill down and see what is there," he decided. The drilling project took weeks. The humans had to work in shifts, battling the extreme winter conditions to set up their deep drilling equipment. The alien scientists watched in amazement as the humans continued working even when the temperature outside dropped to -100 degrees. "They should be dead," Dr. Zexithara said, watching the thermal images of humans moving around outside in the deadly cold. "Nothing can survive those temperatures." "Human survival suits are more advanced than we realized," Dr. Velthari admitted, "and their tolerance for extreme conditions is far beyond our calculations." The first drill samples came up after 3 weeks of constant work. What they contained shocked everyone, including the humans. "Command, this is New Busan Base," Do Hyun reported to Earth during their regular communication session. "We have found evidence of artificial construction buried under the ice. The materials are not from any known civilization." Tae-hyun examined the metal and crystal samples under powerful microscopes. "These alloys are incredibly advanced," he told his team. "The metal shows no signs of corrosion or wear, despite being frozen for millions of years." So-min found biological traces in the samples that were even more interesting. There are preserved organic compounds in these materials, DNA-like structures, but far more complex than anything we have seen before. "What does that mean?" asked Hanul. "It means whoever built these structures was alive once, and they were incredibly intelligent," So-min replied. "The deeper they drilled, the more amazing the discoveries became. The underground structures were not just buildings. They were an entire city, preserved perfectly in the deep ice. The city was vast, covering hundreds of square kilometers beneath the surface. But the most shocking discovery came when Jae-sung detected that the ancient city was still active. "The power systems are still running," he reported, staring at his instruments in disbelief. "After millions of years, their technology is still working." "That is impossible," Do-hyun said. "The readings do not lie," Jae-sung insisted. "There are energy flows down there. Heating systems, lighting systems, even what looks like transportation. That works. All still operational." Tae-hyun made the connection that explained everything. "They built their city here for the same reason we did. The extreme conditions preserve everything perfectly. The cold keeps their technology in perfect condition. The ice protects it from damage." So-min realized something even more important. "The bacteria we found in the ice. They are not natural organisms. They are maintenance systems, biological machines designed to keep the ancient city functioning." The humans had not just found ruins. They had found a perfectly preserved ancient civilization that had chosen to build on Cairo 7 specifically because of its harsh conditions. The terrible environment that the aliens saw as impossible to survive was actually the perfect preservation system. "We need to go down there," Do-hyun decided. "We need to see this city with our own eyes." The descent into the ancient city took months of preparation. The humans had to build special equipment to drill through 5 kilometers of ice safely. They had to design new vehicles that could operate in the underground caverns. Most importantly, they had to do all of this during the worst winter in the planet's recorded history. The alien scientists watching from space could not believe what they were seeing. The humans were not just surviving the deadly winter. They were using it as an opportunity to make the most important archaeological discovery in galactic history. When the humans finally broke through into the first underground chamber, the images they sent back to Earth changed everything. The ancient city was beautiful beyond imagination. Crystalline towers stretched upward through vast caverns. Streets of smooth metal connected buildings that glowed with their own inner light. Parks and gardens filled with preserved plants created green spaces in the underground world. "The city is not empty," Do-hyun reported in a voice filled with wonder. "The preservation systems have kept everything exactly as it was when the builders lived here. We are walking through a civilization that existed millions of years before the first galactic species developed space travel." Tae-hyun discovered that the ancient builders had been exactly like humans in one crucial way. They were ice world specialists, he explained to the amazed alien scientists listening to their reports. Their technology, their architecture, their entire civilization was designed for extreme cold conditions. Somin found evidence that the ancient race had visited many different ice worlds across the galaxy. They were explorers, just like us. They went to the most difficult and dangerous planets and made them into homes. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. The worthless ice planet that no civilized species could survive on was actually the site of the most advanced ancient civilization ever found. And it was only accessible to humans because they were the only species tough enough to work in its deadly conditions. The alien scientists finally understood their mistake. They had not failed to appreciate Kairos 7 because they lacked intelligence or technology. They had failed because they lacked the fundamental toughness that evolution had built into humanity across millions of years of surviving on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. The humans had not conquered Kairos 7 despite its impossible conditions. They had conquered it because of those conditions. The deadly environment was not their enemy. It was their greatest tool. 2 years had passed since the alien scientists laughed at the humans who wanted to live on the ice world. Now the same meeting room was filled with very different sounds. Instead of laughter, there were whispers of respect and amazement. Dr. Velthari stood at the front of the room again, but this time she looked humble and embarrassed. Her 4 purple eyes could not meet the gaze of the human delegates who had come to address the Galactic Research Council. "Honorable humans," she began, her voice much quieter than before. "The Galactic Research Council formally apologizes for our previous assessment of your capabilities. We were wrong. Very wrong." The big screen behind her showed pictures of what Kairos 7 looked like now. The terrible ice world had been transformed. Where once there was only empty frozen wasteland, now there was a thriving human city called New Busan. The city had grown from the small base camp to a proper settlement with over 3,000 human residents. There were research laboratories, living complexes, schools for children, parks with earth plants growing in heated domes, and even entertainment centers where humans relaxed after their work. But the most impressive sight was the ancient underground city that the humans had restored to working condition. The preserved alien technology was now active again after millions of years of sleep. The humans had figured out how to use the ancient power systems, transportation networks, and environmental controls. Du-hyun stood to address the alien assembly. His hair was more gray now after 2 years on the ice world, but his eyes were bright with success. Behind him stood his original team, Tae-hyun, So-min, Jae-sung, and Ha-nul. All of them looked healthy and confident. "Thank you for your apology," Do-hyun said simply. "We accept it, but more importantly, we want to share what we have learned with all of you." He gestured to the screen, which now showed a map of the galaxy with dozens of planets marked in red. "Our exploration of Kairos 7 has revealed something important. The ancient civilization that built the underground city visited many worlds. All of them are ice worlds that your surveys have classified as uninhabitable." A murmur went through the alien audience. Dr. Fluxstar raised his hand. "Are you saying there are more ancient sites like the one you found?" "We believe so," Tae-hyun answered. He had become the leading expert on ancient ice world archaeology. The preserved records in the underground city show evidence of a galaxy-wide network of settlements, all built on planets that modern civilizations consider too dangerous to visit. So-min added her own findings. "The biological preservation systems we found are not unique to Kairos 7. The ancient builders used the same techniques on every ice world they colonized. There could be perfectly preserved cities waiting to be discovered on dozens of planets." The alien scientist realized what this meant. All of the technological and scientific treasures from the most advanced ancient civilization in galactic history were hidden on worlds that only humans could access. Dr. Velthari asked the question that everyone was thinking. Would humans be willing to explore these other ice worlds, working with the Galactic Research Council? Du-hyun smiled. "We would be happy to work with you. But you need to understand something. These worlds are not just research sites for us. When we explore a new world, it becomes our new home. We do not just visit difficult places, we make them into human communities." Ha-nul explained what that meant in practical terms. Each ice world we explore will become a permanent human settlement. We will build cities, bring families, and create new human societies adapted to local conditions. And in exchange, Jae-sung added, we will share all of our discoveries with the galactic scientific community, the weather data, the geological surveys, the archaeological findings, and the ancient technology. The alien scientists discussed this proposal among themselves. They realized they were witnessing the emergence of humanity as the galaxy's premier exploration species. Humans were not just tough survivors. They were pioneers who could unlock secrets that no other civilization could reach. Dr. Zexathara asked about the practical details. How many ice worlds could humans potentially colonize? Tae-hyun consulted his survey data. Our initial analysis has identified 47 worlds in this sector alone that match the profile for ancient settlements. With proper support, human teams could begin exploration missions within the next 5 years. What kind of support do you need? Dr. Velthari asked. Do-hyun listed their requirements. Transportation to the target worlds, communication systems, to stay in contact with the galactic community, and trade agreements so we can exchange our discoveries for supplies we cannot produce locally. That seems very reasonable, Dr. Fluxtar admitted, especially considering the value of what you offer in return. So-min had one more surprise for the alien assembly. There is something else we have discovered. The ancient ice world civilization left behind detailed records of their exploration techniques. They developed methods for surviving and thriving on planets that are even more extreme than Kiro 7. More extreme? Dr. Velthari asked nervously. Worlds with temperatures below -200 degrees. Planets with atmospheres made of frozen, poison gases. Moons with gravity so strong that most creatures would be crushed flat. So-min explained. The ancient builders mastered all of these environments. And now humans have access to their knowledge, Hanul added with pride. The alien scientists sat in stunned silence. They had spent centuries assuming that the harshest worlds in the galaxy were simply beyond the reach of intelligent life. Now they learned that not only had an ancient civilization mastered those worlds, but humans were preparing to follow in their footsteps. Do-hyun concluded his presentation with words that would be remembered in galactic history. 2 years ago, you laughed because you thought humans could not survive on one ice world. Today we are offering to explore dozens of worlds that are even more dangerous. This is not because we are reckless or foolish. He paused and looked around the room at all the alien faces watching him. This is because humans understand something that took us millions of years to learn on our home planet Earth. Survival is not about finding the perfect environment. Survival is about adapting to whatever environment you are given. Tae-hyun added the final point. The ancient ice world builders understood this too. That is why they built their greatest achievements in the most impossible places. They knew that if you can thrive where others cannot even survive, you will discover things that others cannot even imagine. The Galactic Research Council voted unanimously to approve the Human Exploration Program. For the first time in galactic history, one species would be responsible for accessing an entire category of worlds that had been considered completely worthless. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Dr. Velthari approached Do-hyun privately. I have one personal question, she said. When you first saw Kiro 7, were you afraid? Do-hyun thought about the question seriously. Yes, he admitted. But not afraid of the ice or the cold or the storms. I was afraid we might not be good enough to honor the challenge it offered us. And now? She asked. He smiled and looked at the pictures of New Busan City thriving on the ice world that had once seemed impossible to survive. Now I know that humans and impossible challenges belong together. The harder the challenge, the more amazing the things we can accomplish. The alien scientists watched as the humans returned to their ship and prepared to fly back to Kiro 7. They were no longer looking at primitive creatures who had gotten lucky. They were looking at the galaxy's new masters of the impossible, and they knew that the universe was about to become a much more interesting place.